If you're new to trade, and I'll introduce them to the ICPA, it's one of those conferences that it's warm, it's welcoming. Whether you're new or if you've been in the business over 30 years, everybody is there to learn.
Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
Hello, everyone. We're back with another SimplyTrade podcast episode. I know you're wondering why I am starting this episode, because usually I'm just on the news. But today we have some very special people with us here in the office, and I decided to jump on because it's one of my favorite conferences to go to. So I really wanted to be on it. And Andy is having his own stuff to deal with today. So I'm covering for him, and I'm really excited to be here. And obviously Lalo is with us in the studio, but Lalo, you're not the most special person today because it's everyone else that we have here in the room. So do we want to start with introductions? Lalo, do you want to get it kind of along from here?
Yeah, we'll do that. But you kind of made the Andy situation seem a little dramatic. He's actually just moving, guys. So don't worry.
Hello. I have to stir it up a little so the people can talk online. Just kidding, you guys.
Yeah,
I know. Check out his LinkedIn, and you'll know exactly where he is.
Yes, exactly. So on the show, we do have, like Anik said, we do have ICPA on the show, and we have a panel of 4 people that are joining us today, which is kind of exciting because we get to hear their perspectives as to why we're coming on this show and why we're talking about the next upcoming conference in October. We'll get a lot more details on that. We obviously have Elizabeth on the show. We also have Cindy, who's been on the show before. We have Chris Scalisi. Hopefully I got that right. Okay, cool. And then, so I asked Bonnie earlier. So we have Blue Eyes, the chairman of the board here. So I'm sorry, we have our own Blue Eyes. I'm kind of for I guess for the younger folk, that's what they used to call Frank Sinatra Blue Eyes, and they also used to call him the chairman of the board. So Anik's face is like, who the heck are you talking about?
I was just going to stay quiet and pretend I know exactly what you're talking about.
So anyway, so we have Bonnie, who's not even a year into her, or maybe not even a year into her being a chairman of the board for ICPA. So anyway, but welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you for having us. Yeah. I'm excited.
Well, I just wanted to, let's start. When is the next conference? And first off, how excited are you guys?
Oh,
I mean,
very pumped up, actually.
Yes, okay. I'm excited.
So the dates, Elizabeth, let's start with that.
Okay. The dates are going to be, I'm looking at the thing, so October 20th through the
23rd.
So Sunday you roll in and you get lots of entertainment, and you relax and you hang out with your buddies, and do calf roping with George Tuttle and Andy Shiles and line dancing with DJ Cam. And then we start bright and early Monday morning with a ton of learning. We've got 4 tracks now instead of 3. And so we're just really expanding the amount of content for each conference year over year. So that's exciting too.
So let's talk about the content. What is like one of the upcoming topics that you guys have on there? I know there's a lot, but and I know you might not even be able to choose because they're probably all good. But what is something you're looking forward because it's just so hot right now in the industry?
That is U3.
I think there's I think there's a lot of really good topics here. I mean, just looking at the schedule here, on Monday, there's an update. Marina's going to give an update on priority trade issues. So that's always good to hear. Like what's up and coming, what's happening that I may not have heard about. So always good for new professionals and like seasoned veterans, right? To hear about what's coming and what I might need to prepare to be ready for. Then, right after that, Lillian Holden is doing a session on how to prepare for the broker's exam. So for those of you who are in the industry, but are looking to take that next step in your career to, go ahead and pass that broker's exam, that can be a tremendously helpful session. There's several sessions being given by companies that are wonderful partners of ours, Third Wave, Deep Cognition, Clear Now, and others who are going to talk about what they have to offer and the solutions that they may be able to offer some folks who are struggling with how to automate some processes or how to do a deeper dive into their data. So those are some of the ones that really, speak to me. Adrian Braumiller and George Tuttle are talking about anti-dumping and countervailing duties. That's always a good topic because there's always new cases, right? That's always expanding. We've had a bunch of new countries just added to the mattress case, for example. And then importing from Canada is a really good one too. And I would imagine, de minimis would be woven into that. And there's tons of new, stuff going on in that de minimis landscape. And, depending on the results of the next election, sounds like there could be a lot more going on. And all of that was just Monday. But Cindy and Chris, I don't know if you have other sessions that maybe you're looking forward to on Monday.
I do. I mean, Lila's going to be talking about de minimis just as a whole on the 86th century and the Section 321s, which is very exciting to see. And there's, one of the things I always love about the education is it's, before, during, and after the dialogue and the conversations that strike up afterwards. And it's amazing that you run into people who are, not only your peers, your competitors. I call it the trade nerd society. Everybody's there to kind of geek out and talk about, what are some of the challenges that they're facing, and they resonate to some of these education components that they're going through. So, like I said, I'm really excited about de minimis. I'm very excited about that's on, I believe that's on Monday, or actually that's on Tuesday. And then there's a couple of them. I'm looking at I color coded my calendar for the 3-day event, but evaluation with Alexa Reed is going to be really good. Managing both sides of the U.S. On the Canadian side for that is that's in International Room 3.
Ooh, that's me.
That's Bonnie. Yeah.
That's my session. Yeah.
I'm sharing that with you.
Great. I'll see you there.
Bonnie, and it's going to be the best session. So there you go.
I don't know about that, but thanks, Chris. Thanks. But yeah, that's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to presenting on that. I work for Wayfair and do manage, imports into Canada and the US. And I think it'll be interesting to talk about, what are the differences between the two countries, where they exist, and what are some things that you need to keep in mind, maybe for one country, but not the other. And then in addition to that, like besides just the regulatory landscape and how that might be different, how do you set your team up to deal with that, right? Do you have one team that manages Canada and one that handles US? Do you have, a team that does both at the same time and kind of know enough about both to be able to handle it? What's the best way to do that, right? So I think it'll be a good discussion. So looking forward to it.
I'm going to tell you that there's two that I'm going to go to on Tuesday. I don't normally go, but this is like number one. I'm going to go to Ashley. I think the way she says her name is Amadon, and that's the Lacey Act. And I have to tell you, I have nothing to do with trade, right? I'm an event planner who just is baptized by trade for the last 20 years. So, but what's cool about this particular one is she is the president of the IWPA, which is like a similar association like us, but it's for the woodworkers, right? And because of Elizabeth Baldwin, who I talk about at every event, I've learned that our woodworking group of trade compliance field is a small, niche inside of ICPA, but they are so intense and love what they do, especially Elizabeth. And I went to one of her lunch and learns that was here in the area, and I learned so much about the Lacey Act and why it was incredible. Like, I just find it fascinating. So I want to go to that. Then I'm going to get my popcorn and make sure that I don't miss George Reed on CARM. Okay. Because I don't have to know a lot to know that it was coming. It's not.
What an interesting topic,
it's not.
Right? Yeah.
I'm going to see how he.
know.
Yeah, but it's really supposed to be here in October.
October 21st. We're ready. Mark the calendar. Yep.
So, I mean, that should be a good one, right?
Yeah, but that Lacey Act one applies to me a lot too at Wayfair, right? Because we sell wooden furniture, ton of it. So yeah, really looking forward to the updates coming because there's a lot of legislation changes coming with the Lacey Act. So that should be a good one. And then what about the workshop on Wednesday? What is that all about, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I don't know. I know a lot of acronyms. I've just started recently not calling the ADCVD ACDC. I did that for a long time, right? So I'm learning, but I have no idea. Well, maybe I do. Emerging ESG initiatives. So ESG is, I don't remember.
Environmental sustainability and governance, something like that. Is that right, Cindy?
Something like that.
You're right.
And I'll be attending that. It'll be a sustainability. Our company is very big on sustainability. We have changed our packaging to more environmentally friendly type packaging. We've done away with most of our plastics in the packaging, and I work for Belkin. It's impacting all of us. And one of the things I have found out about the sustainability, other countries might be leading the way, and then it rolls out around the regions, the requirements. And so in my position to find out or to learn more about the different regions, which I do cover, but we're not reinventing the wheel every time we get a new directive from another country. It's, we've done this. We're already onto this. We've reported it in this country. They're using the same standard for reporting in this other country. Canada was following Europe. It was, when those came out, we're like, we just had to we do have a Department of Sustainability, obviously, a company our size. And I'm actually inviting that department to come visit, to go to this conference to this day.
You can come just to the workshop, or I was going to say, you can come to the whole event, come just 2 days. And my favorite option that is a little more tricky, but could work, if you really wanted to, if you wanted to come to the 2-day conference and then wanted to attend virtually to Wednesday, you can do that. You can go home and that to me is the one thing that I love about our product is the fact that we have that on demand. We have that virtual life. We have that 60 days post conference. And it's been a situation in Canada and even actually at the annual conference this year. What is great about the virtual is we would have somebody who gets sick 2 days before the event. One guy broke his shoulder. He was actually going to play the guitar with Jamie Adams at the annual and he broke his shoulder. So, and so he was able to attend and get the education that he wanted. He was still able to participate. And so I see a lot of companies in event planning. I'm not talking about just this industry moving away from the hybrid model and the virtual model. And I just don't get it. I'm just, man.
So many good reasons to have that virtual option, right? I mean, maybe some people's companies won't give them quite the budget to, travel, stay in a hotel, pay for a couple of meals that ICPA doesn't cover. But they would have the budget to pay the much cheaper price to attend virtually. Or there's been several times for me that there's 2 sessions happening at the same time. And obviously I can't be in 2 places at once. So I attend one, but then I have that 60 days after the conference to go back and watch that other one that I wasn't able to attend live. Right. So, so many good benefits to that and really appreciate that you continue to push for that because I think it brings a lot of value. So
I do too.
I think that's great.
Love it.
I monitor on the virtual side to help with that and making sure it's going through. So we do it right. We don't just set up a camera and a microphone. We have somebody monitoring it, bringing the questions in, and I'm getting some experience in that. So yeah,
I think that's great. And that's what I was going to highlight as well. You mentioned that questions piece. There's still an interactive element, even if you're watching from home or from your office, right? That you're still able to ask questions and someone like Cindy will raise them and make sure that you're heard, your voice is heard too, that you're getting your questions answered. So that's really cool. It's almost like you're in the room.
And Chris, earlier in the conversation, you talked about, which is very interesting because that's the reason we created the podcast. Was you said after the sessions, in between the sessions, conversations happen and you're in the hallways and you're networking. an impromptu little conversation might come up. And honestly, like I said it before on the show, that's the reason we started this podcast, because I personally was missing during the pandemic those conversations, because I'm always just, wandering around talking to people. And so we were missing that. So I reached out to Andy's like, hey, let's try to duplicate that on the podcast and get those people that we normally talk to at the conferences, and let's just spread it out. So that's how the podcast came about. But very interesting that you say that, because Cindy was talking earlier about, just, it's not only just like about, hey, did you catch that great ball game? So, it's not only that's added there, but Cindy, you were talking earlier about also like helping further or even bring up things that may help in the industry.
I have an issue right now that I'm dealing with customs, a new directive that they came out about more complete information on the bill of lading. And it's directly in contradiction of the manifest confidentiality clause, that we're allowed confidentiality, but they want us to put non-confidential information in a non-confidential area of the bill of lading. They already have that information somewhere else in customs, that they started a program years ago where we have to file our ISF importers
security filing.
Yeah, that's it. Importers.
Okay.
I'm sorry, all the acronyms. Importer security
Y'all
filing.
got a lot of them.
And the information's there. They don't need it on the bill of lading. And there's corporate information that's confidential, and there's also security issues. So I've reached out to customs. I've reached out to the CTPAT people in customs, but I want to get more talk about it, that I'm not the only one making an issue. So I'll be talking to people, other importers who have the same issue, who are fighting it, and help tell them how to network, how to lobby for it, and get this changed and updated, that it was a bad directive by customs. But where do I meet all those people at one time? How do I reach out to them? Well, I'm going to have a couple days, 2-3 days here in, actually 4 or 5 days. I'll be there a little bit longer, to network with others and say, hey guys, let's get on board with this and see what we can do. It's a great opportunity for me. And so if you all have problems with that new initiative, look me up at the, you can buy me a drink at the conference.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Cindy, I'll definitely take you up on that one and buy you a drink at the conference, because one of the things this is what drove me to the ICPA. And this is where its tentacles are just not about the conferences, whether if you're in Orlando, San Diego, Grapevine, or such. The data groups themselves are represented in 15 different major cities across US and Canada. And where Cindy brings up a topic like this is where the data groups or the ICPA as an organization says, hey, why don't we bring somebody from customs together and do like a webinar or a topic of discussion to see if we can get these questions answered. And these are the things that I was introduced to this organization back in 2018. And I think walking in and, the first thing you see is a T-shirt, somebody selling, a custom broker is easy. It's just riding a bike on a tightrope, and the tightrope's on fire. I give credit to Ann Lister for creating that one. And I looked, I'm like, this is such an amazing place. I mean, you're bumping into people with real life problems and helping, trying to solve for their companies. And the dialogue and the conversations are happening day one, right at the reception, right when that Sunday night when people are just introducing themselves. And those first introductions that I met back in 2018 at the first reception, I think we were riding a bull at the time, are lifelong friends to this day, 2024, fast forward. And, we really, it's a small trade community. It's a very small world. Everybody kind of knows everybody. We're all kind of interconnected. But we're all on the same mission to kind of help and support one another with these problems that we face each and every day. And that's where I think the ICPA really, really shines.
I want to add on to that, actually, now that you're bringing up the network situation, and, you're saying this is a very tight-knit industry, and, you kind of all know each other too, because people go to these conferences and they go every year. So they kind of know each other, but that is not the only people that are going, because there's also very new trade professionals that are newbies that know nothing, that is the first thing that stuck out to me, that these new people come in with these true trade professionals that have been in the industry for 10 plus years or maybe even longer, and they can connect. So what better way to learn the industry than from people that have done it forever? And I mean, you get to join those, what do you call it? The sessions, right? Which are great. You learn all this stuff, but then you're like, all right, well, what do I do now? You can talk to these people like, hey, this is an issue. Like I don't understand this. How do you do this? Like that's the great part for me, because I'm obviously a newbie, but people talk to me. No, they don't look down on you. They're not like, well, you don't know anything.
It's an open arm. It's an open arm embrace.
Yes,
they bring you right
that's
in.
The
yeah,
beauty.
and that's the nice thing about
right.
it.
And that's the awesome part of ICPA or the conference, right?
I think people are excited to share their knowledge, and you don't want somebody else having to reinvent the wheel after you've already struggled with that problem. You want to share it. And I remember at my last job, my boss came to me with something in another country that I hadn't dealt with. I didn't know the rules. I called up Anne. I said, do you know somebody who imports into Hungary? It was the EU. She got me the name of somebody, and we talked about how to solve this problem. I had just started there. My boss thought I was brilliant, and all I did was find out how to resolve it because somebody else had already done it. So I increased my knowledge immediately, and I looked brilliant to him. It was wonderful.
I think I think the networking piece is really key here. I mean, even if you attend the conference, and Elizabeth says this all the time from the stage at the conferences, but if you attend all of the sessions and you don't leave with somebody's contact information, or you haven't spoken to somebody that you didn't already know, you're really missing out on a lot of the value. I mean, there's, to Cindy's point, the knowledge sharing piece, or the, hey, I'm having this issue. Is anyone else having this issue? There's the bringing to Chris's point, bringing the new folks into the fold, right, under your wing, so to speak. But then there's also that my job now and my last job, both of them I found through ICPA. I mean, truly, it's because I made connections with people at ICPA who then thought of me later when they had an open position and reached out and said, hey, I think you'd be the right fit for this. What do you think? So it's that too. It's like a career building, organization that can help you extensively with that. But if you never open your mouth and you never speak to anyone, that's not going to work, right? So you gotta try to get out of your shell a little bit. It's hard to do. It is hard.
And that's where you talk to my favorite piece of it, right? Because I always challenge everybody to make 3 new friends, right? And I follow up with it pretty much every day, where you at? And let me tell you, if you're somebody that wants to eat alone, you better go back up to your room. Because if I see you, it's going to be me or the Cindys or the Bonnies, we're going to find you and we're going to come sit with you, because it is true. Today's lunch buddy is tomorrow's boss or tomorrow's employee. I mean, or coworker. The industry is so fluid in that way. And so that is the most important part to me, is the networking. I love people, and I think we do it well.
They have people walking around who are ambassadors. They have sashes. Sometimes they have funny hats on or whatever. I've done this
crowns or tiaras,
crowns,
right?
That's right. We have the tiaras and the cowboy hats, and the Mickey ears.
So. But the thing is, when I'm working as an ambassador, I'm looking for somebody who's lost, try to help them, somebody who's eating lunch by themselves, sit down, start talking to them, somebody. And we also, if you're willing to put this on your badge, we'll identify first timers, just like at Disneyland, my first visit to Disney World or whatever, so that people will know to reach out to you, and make sure you're not feeling lost. It's just I remember my first organization, my first one, I didn't know anybody, but everybody was very friendly. The first time I went to ICPA.
Yeah, she is an ambassador. And I think that a lot of that credit goes to, the thing that kind of sets us apart and makes us different. And, my mom, in particular has always been a little, she's got that fun side, right? She's very funny and she's very entertaining. And so I think that you can come here and get these great deep topics. I mean, you named some of the amazing speakers, Adrian Brommeler, Michelle Schultz, George Tuttle. I mean, you're going to get a wealth of knowledge, right? But we are super business casual and family friendly, right? Like we're not, we're different in that way. And so I think that from the minute you walk in, like you said, Chris, you're seeing these crazy shirts, or you're seeing the staff shirts that say, we know stuff, and we're laughing and having a good time. And it kind of just allows you to breathe and take it in a way that I think makes the really hard parts of it more palatable. Cause this is,
It's
serious stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. It's our jobs are also like serious all the time, right? That it's nice to have a little bit of levity, right? It's nice to have the calf roping with the plastic, cow and the plastic rope. And it's nice to do the line dancing with Cam, even though I swear I have 2 left feet and can't figure it out. I still can't do it, but I try, right? And I have fun, and nobody's pointing and laughing. Everybody's just out there smiling, having a wonderful time, having a free drink on that free drink ticket that we give out, so it's it's a nice mixture of the networking, the sessions, but a little bit of fun and great food. So can't go wrong.
I want to give credit to Ann Lister for that she's one of the founders of ICPA. And the thing is, smart lady, knows her compliance issues, but she also has this funny sense of humor, and she can marry the two up. I think it really helps in our job because we have very serious days. And if you can't see the humor in what we're doing,
you'd just be miserable, right?
Right. Yes. It makes life much easier. Yes.
And I want to thank you so much for sharing, by the way. I agree. I've been to the conference, guys, a couple of times, and I totally agree with everything that's being said. The serious part and the fun part, which together meshes up this beautiful conference, right? But there is a part that stuck out to me, and I do want to ask if this is happening again. It's, I'm not sure what you guys call it, but all the lawyers, they get up on stage and
the legal eagles.
Yes, the legal eagle. So they bring up some topics. So people ask questions, and they sometimes are confidential because these are crazy questions. Like, what do you do if this is happening and there's almost $6 billion at stake? And these lawyers get in line and they give their opinion. I heard one lawyer say, just liquidize the firm. That's what you would say, right? And liquidate. Oh my God, guys, my English is not that great today.
So there's a panel on Monday called Duty Calls, Navigating Trade Together. So something really similar in that it's still a panel with a bunch of, very knowledgeable people answering questions, but not quite the same format. But I think you'll still get a lot of benefit out of it and have a lot of fun.
I said hosted by Lalo.
Well, that makes it even better.
Yeah, this was Lalo's idea. This is his baby. And
I pitched this idea to Elizabeth a couple of years ago, and we've been working on it. So yeah, that's what I called it, Duty Calls, and because it is. I mean, it's obviously a play on words.
Yeah,
there,
play
but
on
anyway,
words.
Yeah. So Andy and I will be on stage and trying to moderate and keep everybody together. But we're going to ask everybody in the audience who are trade professionals to, chime in. On the panel will be someone new, someone in the middle, and someone seasoned, giving their opinions. No consultants, no attorneys. So that's what it's going to be, practitioners.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, Lalo. I'm really looking forward to hearing that or being a part of it if I'm able to. Like that just I really love the idea. And it's something different. And I feel like the lawyers would give very they're funny, right? But they give very lawyerly advice, right? But sometimes you want that practical, what are you doing? What are you clicking on? What are you doing in your spreadsheet? Who are you calling? Those sorts of answers from people who aren't necessarily lawyers and looking at the law, right? So I think it's a fantastic idea and looking forward to it.
No, this whole thing, I mean, I can't wait for this to happen. I feel like you're doing lots of new things, more. Did you say tracks? You call them tracks, right? More tracks, right? We have this upcoming. So this is going to be a whole new thing, guys. So if you have been going to ICPA, this will be a little different. And Yeah, so if you have not signed up yet, do it now. I mean, when are you going to do it?
I don't know if we mentioned that it's in Grapevine, Texas, right? Is that right, Elizabeth? So right outside of Dallas.
We can't wait. And I am sure the listeners can't wait. And I hope this helped to lighten up some of the questions you have around ICPA, or, just to bring awareness on, if you're new to trade, what you could expect at the conference. And I want to thank all of you guys for jumping onto the podcast. It's just so great to have you guys on and just talk on this conference coming up. And this is really pretty much it. If anyone has anything else to say, do it now. This is your stage.
I have one last word. And if you're new to trade and you're looking, and so many people I'll run into, and I'll introduce them to the ICPA, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know this organization ever existed." And, and they go to their first conference, and it's like, they feel like there's like overload, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's going to be, but it's one of those conferences that it's warm, it's welcoming, whether you're new or if you've been in the business over 30 years, everybody is there to learn. Everybody is there to meet one another. And the best thing about it is with the on-demand, if there's 2 sessions that you really want to go to and you're going back and forth, that you can always go back and watch the second one, which is great. And are we doing continuing education credits too?
Well, oh my gosh, I wish Lisa was here to tell me. Yes. So we did partner with CBP to be not just accredited, but to be an accreditor, which means we can, help other entities. And so I have no doubt that our events will be approved. And the more exciting part for me is that, like you said, so you want to go to this one live, and then you go back and watch this one. Our system in Cvent, our registration software, allows me to update your hours watched in real time. So if you attended 10 in person and you went back and watched 5 more, you're getting 15 credit hours. Now, I will say the government doesn't really want you to get all your credit hours in one event. I mean, it's not designed that way. I don't think at this point in the conversation that they're going to micromanage that initially. They want you to get some exposure to other things, and we do too. But it is nice to know that, especially in the fall, if you've forgotten to keep track of it all year long, you can go and it happens all the time. People are coming in. Oh my gosh, is there one more webinar that I could do? Yes, there is. We almost always have something on tap, Lalo, where you can get the credit and the education that you need. So good question, Chris. I appreciate that.
And not only for CBP, also for those NCB FAA certifications, right? CCS, MCS, CES, whichever ones you have, definitely can get credit for those. That's where I get all of mine every year, but don't tell them. But yeah, that's where I get all of mine. So yeah, super helpful for lots of those things. So great question, Chris. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I want to point out, if you're new to ICPA or haven't joined yet and you want to, the first year is free.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Great minds think alike, Bonnie. Yes. And
it's true.
That's people should know about that it doesn't cost you anything that first year to test it out. You go sign up for a new, internet web TV show, whatever, streaming, and you only get 30 days, maybe only 2 weeks. This, you get a whole year. So
a whole year. What a bargain for free.
Yes.
My favorite price for anything.
And,
yeah.
And then you can see all the benefits that they have to offer. It's a great deal.
Yeah, and then we're confident that you'll continue. And it's pretty cheap going forward after that too, Cindy. I think it's very, very affordable. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all. I mean, to recap, October 20 through the 22nd for the core conference, the 23rd for the add-on with KPMG. And if you want to hang out a day earlier or later, I mean, I know people are usually there on Saturday or whatever, just reach out. But thank you. Yes.
I live here. So yes, I'll take you down to the stockyards. Have no problem.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
You so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good one. See you in October. Bye. Thank you very much for joining us. SimplyTrade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor SimplyTrade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at SimplyTradePod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. SimplyTrade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by SimplyTrade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.